Good morning, everyone. I have Lois Letchford with me. She has a beautiful accent. I always love this gorgeous accent from Australia, but in upstate New York right now. And she is the CEO of Teaching Students with Dyslexia, and I can't speak this morning, author of Reversed, a memoir. And I see your book cover in the back, and it's appropriately reversed, and I love that branding as well. But Reversed, a memoir, is obviously a memoir is a personal story. So I really want to start there. Tell me how you have come to write this book.
It's been 25 years in the making because my son failed first grade in 1994. And when children fail, the chances of getting out of it and succeeding are really low. And my husband's a professor, and we had the opportunity to travel for 6 months in 1995. And during that time, I was able to turn Nicholas around. And it wasn't, now he's magically resolved, but he found a love of learning. Mm-hmm. We were in Oxford, and I wrote poems. I changed the teaching for him. And it was a phenomenal time. Although my stress levels were through the roof, I could see Nicholas making these tiny baby steps of loving learning and reading. And that was the start. And we returned to Australia, and I spoke to the lady who'd done the testing on Nicholas, and, you test kids, and the testing was terrible. And I spoke to her again after this wonderful experience, and she stood there in front of me, put her hands on her hips and said, "Well, he's the worst child I've seen in 20 years of teaching." Mm. And when someone gives you a label like that, it stays in your brain, never to be removed.
Absolutely. And
so from that, what she did was actually gave me permission to change things even more. So that's what I did. Mm-hmm. And what I found was that the teaching, again, became so much fun. Mm-hmm. I went on to become
Did you have a teaching background at that point?
I had a teaching background in physical education.
Oh, so
not literacy.
Talk about advocating for your own child. Yes. In the truest sense. Mm-hmm.
Not literacy. And that was significant. But so I switched, and I was able to retrain. And that was incredible to go back and read the academic literature in the light of teaching Nicholas. And the other thing I discovered was that I had a learning disability. I then started to really put my background together in that I could, as a child, read words I couldn't comprehend. Mm-hmm. And for me as a child was, here's a book, yes, Lois will read it. And I every word. And it was like wading through mud.
Yeah, Lois, I can relate to that. I've said that here before. I was a child, and I didn't enjoy reading, and I was sort of passed by. You can be a kid who just doesn't like to read, and teachers kind of say, okay, well, she's a kid who doesn't like to read. My mother was a teacher. She was a speech pathologist, and didn't sort of take that, and didn't believe that. I like to listen to books. I love the stories. My whole world right now is telling people's stories, and I would play and create. So my mother had a hard time believing that I didn't like to read. I didn't comprehend. I would read the words, I read early, but I didn't understand what I was reading either. And they would take me out of class to do reading comprehension. And, when you take a kid out of class too, it's like, there's that kid there, there is all of that goes with that too. I don't enjoy reading today. And as an adult, and I fully say that, so I have to find things I enjoy to read, and the kind of books, even today. because of so many things as a child. I love when someone sends me a book when I've interviewed them, because usually I've interviewed them and there's that personal connection. I love reading biographies, so it's the person's story. And so whenever I meet someone who talks about that, I'm so touched by that interaction of someone taking the time to help someone to enjoy reading. I'm so blessed that I say it's not genetic, because my children all read. They learn to read young. They love to read. I was helping my son unpack his apartment, and I looked at him and I said, you need another bookshelf. I mean, there's just so many books here, your whole apartment is books. But, I think, it's just a big message that you're giving, whether it be dyslexia or something, when you see a young child start young, kids don't start off by, I don't like to read, I don't want to read. There's something. Dig deep.
Yes. That's it. Dig deep. And before we even start on teaching letters and sounds, we have to engage. In fact, we really need to do both. You've got to get the letters and sound, but children must be engaged.
I'm sorry, I missed, how old is your son today?
My son turns 33 on the 8th of August.
Okay.
That's what, your original question was, how did you come to write this book? Because you failed. The chance of getting out of the slim. But so Nicholas got out of it, and it was by accident. It was by accident that we had that time in Oxford, which was transformative. And then in 1999, we moved to Lubbock, Texas, which was our second international move, really. And
From London to Lubbock, Texas? That would have been like a culture shock.
I've got the wrong t-shirt
I think you need to write a book about that.
Well, we were in Brisbane, Australia to Oxford, England, back to Brisbane, to Lubbock. And now, believe it or not, living in Lubbock took Nicholas from the bottom to the top.
Wow.
And in my book, I identify 9 factors that happened in Lubbock that would not have happened anywhere else in the world. Just like right at the beginning when we were in Oxford, things happened in Oxford that wouldn't have happened anywhere else in the world. And then Lubbock was this other transformative part of our lives that really helped Nicholas. And then he went on, he got 2 undergraduate degrees. And in 2018, he completed a PhD in applied mathematics from Oxford University.
Oh my goodness. Wow. I mean, I think that the success story there it has so many levels, that, one, a mother's love and advocacy for their child, a child's determination, and, what a blessing. But, I think that, the overall message is, when you see something, help your child. Don't, I think teachers are our greatest gift, but I also think they're overworked. They've got so many factors. We've given them a whole year, this past year and a half, of Zoom school, which, I've talked to so many teachers who have gone way above and beyond, but, when they're not sitting right in front of their kids, unfortunately, then things can be missed. And as parents, we have to notice those things too. Who are you working with now, or what are you doing now? Because I think that's really important. And I want to mention again, Reversed a Memoir. Where can we find the book too?
The book is available on Amazon. I have an audio version.
Oh, wonderful. So we can, do we hear you in that beautiful accent?
Yes, I did it. I did it. Crazy.
Oh, well, I think that's important. I think it's a memoir. And I think it's important to hear the authenticity of your voice. But tell me about you and what you're doing now.
Because of Nicholas, became this reading specialist, and I followed my husband around the world. I'm now teaching more students who come just like my Nicholas, written off, beaten down, and I work with them. I have a program which allows parents to work with children, and so we work with the parents to work with children, and the three of us work together so that we can diagnose the problem and adapt the program to meet the needs of the child.
Because every child is very different, and I don't want to ever clump. Are there some early signs or a couple little signs that a mother or father might see when a child opens up a book that, I think it's kind of common for a child to mix up letters and things like that. That's early reading. But going beyond that, what a mother or father or babysitter might see.
The first one, ear infections. Ear infections, you can have one or two early on in life, not a problem. Nicholas had ear infections from the age of 8 to 18 months, and that impacts the brain, it impacts brain growth, and you're not hearing the language. And with that, then you notice their response in language is slower. Their utterances, their speaking in sentences are shorter, and the language just doesn't flow. That is not 100% the case across the board, but particularly for children who have significant language issues. That's the first. And I'll tell you, my first student, when I was in London and I became a teacher, the mother said to me about her 13-year-old son, he's never made a grammatical error in his life, and he was fluent with everything, but he couldn't read. So that's an exception. So what else do you notice? They will not willingly take on reading and writing. And what the mother in Lubbock noticed, because I became a reading specialist there, teaching children like Nicholas, and she said he couldn't even find his name. The only way this boy in first grade would pick up his name would be it was the last one left. And they will struggle with sight words. The way teachers teach them generally is through flashcards and just putting them in front of people. For students like that I teach, that's disastrous. They don't see the difference between on and in and no, or of and for and from. They all look the same. And they muddle them up consistently. So, there's you have to find multiple ways to teach those particular words. And everything I do comes from a meaning base.
I think that people who are listening and are struggling with this need to reach out to you. And I put in the link in our interview today, your website to get more information. This is fascinating. I hope you'll come back and share with me more about what you're doing and what you're up to. I think we could keep going. It's fascinating. And I think that it's an area that parents don't talk about because maybe in a class of 24, there's one child. Maybe in a class of 24, there are none. But all of a sudden, in a class of 48, there's the one, and parents don't know what to do. And so they're very quiet about it, and they need to, reach out and get help. And, in defense of teachers, they don't always know, where to get help. And unless they themselves have struggled with these areas. And so what a gift that you are. And Nicholas at 33 years old soon, to have such great success and a great mother's love to early on be an advocate for him, and then develop, to go on and develop a whole learning business, because it is a business, but tools to help other children. LoisLetchford.com is where we find you. Reversed a Memoir is the book found on Amazon. I am so thrilled to have met you today. Come back anytime and
I
share
would
with
love
me.
to.
Bring
And
Nicholas and bring Nicholas.
Nicholas is in the UK.
Well, it's okay. We can coordinate the time zones. We'll get up. We'll be on our time. We'll make him just come on later in the day. He'll have, it's like 3 o'clock or 4 o'clock there. He'll have afternoon tea with us or something.
That's right. Yes. And his wife's birthday is the same day.
Oh, is that? Well, that in the Jewish custom, we say b'sheret. That is meant to be.
Meant to be.
Meant to be. So thank you
having me.
so much for your time today. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.